Καλησπέρα σας. Θεόδωρος Θεοδόρου από το Lobby for Cyprus και μαζί μου απόψε είναι ο Αθανάσιος Τσιμπίδης, ο Αμερικάνος δικηγόρος που έχει έρθει από τη Washington DC για να μας ενημερώσει σχετικά με τη μαζική αγωγή που γίνεται στην Αμερική. Ο κύριος Αθανάσιος Τσιμπίδης έχει έρθει για μία εβδομάδα στο Λονδίνο και έχει παραβρεθεί σε σεμινάριο εδώ στην Παροικία για να ενημερώσει όλα τα άτομα που έχουν κάνει αίτηση για τη μαζική αγωγή. Ο κύριος Τσιμπίδης ήταν και πάνω στο LGR για να ενημερώσει και την Παροικία. Ακριβώς σε ποιο στάδιο είναι η μαζική αγωγή. Mr. Tsimpedes, welcome to London again.
Thank you, Theo. You and the lobby for your full support.
Thank you. Well, it's good to see you here, and a lot has been happening since your last visit. And I just want to read where I believe the current state of affairs is regarding the judgment. And if I can read out to everybody so they clearly know the current update. Mr. Tsimpedes is informing all the plaintiffs of his update. There was a hearing, and as expected, there was no ruling. Regarding the jurisdiction of the legal regime, while there was no ruling, the judge is advancing the case to allow HSBC, which is the bank, to file its motions so that all parties would have briefed the issue and apply to all. The court provided the following dates: November the 15th, 2011, for HSBC's motion to be put forward, and by December the 15th, for the motion of the Tsimpedes law firm against HSBC's motion. And finally, on January the 9th, HSBC has to reply to the opposition of the Tsimpedes law firm. Therefore, after this date, the court will then make its ruling. Mr. Tsimpedes, that is the current position that we face. Why has the judge now allowed HSBC to file its motion?
Well, HSBC, just so everyone knows, is involved in the lawsuit. It's not just about the illegal commercial enterprise known as the TRNC in Washington, D.C. HSBC is involved in the laundering of the monies, both directly, specific to sales of properties belonging to Greek Cypriots, but also indirectly in the fact that monies are being transacted upon and sent to the occupied areas, allowing the illegal regime to continue its operation and deprivation of rights towards Greek Cypriots.
That's good, and therefore the judge rightly wants to hear all parties' motions so that they can then make a final decision.
That's correct.
That's correct. Good. Okay. Now, for our viewers here tonight, you mentioned that the TRNC is part of this class action. And I want to clarify what we mean by the TRNC, because I have heard that people are thinking that it's the TRNC, the legal regime. But it's not the legal regime. Can you tell me exactly who this TRNC is?
Yes. There is an entity, a business entity, that was formed in Washington, D.C. It's the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, a non-profit business entity, and that entity is used as a cloak for the illegal regime to commit and continue its illegal operations in the United States. It also does similarly in other jurisdictions in the United Kingdom and elsewhere around the world under similar type pretexts. So that's what we have. We are not suing the TRNC as a government because it doesn't exist, but we have this entity that is operating in Washington, D.C., and under the laws of the United States, and specific to the District of Columbia,
Yes.
If one has a certificate of occupancy, which we've shown to our viewers in the past, that it is considered prima facie evidence. It is evidence of jurisdiction. In other words, the court has power over you once you are doing business within the District of Columbia.
Right.
That the courts in the District of Columbia have power over you.
Right. So in England we call this, it's like a trading name.
Yes.
So it's trading as the TRNC.
That is correct.
Like any other business, like McDonald's or like Kentucky Fried Chicken and so forth. Is that how you interpret it? Is that the way we should interpret it?
That's exactly right, because it's not been, from its inception, the TRNC doesn't have any legal bases. It uses a trade name, and the trade name is then registered through this tax-exempt status that they have in the United States and elsewhere, and they've created the use of this name that exists to violate the laws. And just like McDonald's, as you say, or Coca-Cola, that is what they're known by.
Right. Fair enough. And another point that has been raised, and I have heard myself, is all the plaintiffs are involved in it. And I understand there's more than 1,000 people who have applied through you in the class action. What happens to the title deeds of these 1,000? Is there any risk to the title deeds within the action?
No, the answer is absolutely none whatsoever. The title deeds remain with the refugees. It is not an issue in the case. They are not exchanging any titles for compensation. The compensation and remedies we're seeking in our lawsuit is strictly for the interference in their property rights, and whether it be the loss of use, whether it was a business and they're losing profits and continue to lose profits for 37 years, whether what we call unjust enrichment in our legal system, whether there is an illegal business profiting currently on your properties, regardless of what it is, whether it didn't even exist before, if they're using it, they being the illegal occupiers and the illegal regime's agents, if they are profiting from their illegal acts, that those profits should not stay with these illegal agents, but they should be provided to the claimant, to the plaintiff.
Right, and so the plaintiffs then, what are they looking for? What would they, if the outcome is positive and we win the judgment, would this result in them being able to go back to their properties and their businesses? Or does it result in compensation in financial terms?
It's solely for compensation. The courts do not have power to enforce anything beyond compensation. A military action, unfortunately, would be required to do something, or enforcement of that level. Strictly, the courts have power to seek compensation. That's what they're there for. That's what we're seeking. And the defendant, HSBC's involvement in this case, allows for the compensation to be recovered through HSBC in Washington, D.C., regardless of where that money's located, because they use the HSBC banking system to distribute and launder their money. So HSBC would be responsible to pay the claims, directly and indirectly.
Right, so therefore, Turkey is not in the equation then, the state of Turkey?
No, it's not. Turkey is not. The deeds, the titles that have been sold fraudulently or used are issued by the TRNC authorities. We put inverted commas on them, so we know that it's an illegal. Only a recognized sovereign nation can issue titles.
Right.
And that's at the crux of this case, the fact that they do not have the ability to issue title.
Yes.
And Turkey has been denying that they're involved with the TRNC. Not having Turkey also provides us, there's an immunity issue that arises when you bring in a foreign nation. Currently, the TRNC, as it stands, is illegal. It is not recognized as a state, and therefore there's no immunity provided to it. So you can sue it, which we have, as an illegal commercial enterprise.
Right. So, fine. Now, how does one evaluate compensation? If it comes to compensation, how would the judge say, well, for 37 years you have not been able to occupy your land, your farmland, or you had a business, you had a hotel, you were an employee there, and you had a house, or you rented things. How do they value the compensation?
It will be based on accounting principles, standard accounting principles that apply in Europe as well. But it also would be specific to that very plaintiff. And that is, if you have lost income on your property. You would be entitled to the lost income. If you've lost the ability to, perhaps some people, there's some plaintiffs in the action that were anticipating selling their property and weren't able to.
Right.
So there was a certain anticipated, with a reasonable certainty, of profits that were to occur. Other claimants had ongoing business concerns. They could use their existing, at that point, tax returns to show the progression with, again, standard accounting principles and what has been going on in the Republic of Cyprus with their economy, and develop a methodology of determining the values. But they're all based on specific instances of each claimant. Right. There's also, if there is a business that is illegally operating on your property, you would be entitled, or that can be used, the projections of that income could be used to determine the value of your property as well, for compensation, not the value of selling it, but in order to show these are the losses that have accumulated. You could use the actual illegal occupier's business operation as your model to give some sort of guidance to the court as to the losses, even if you didn't have any. For example, if someone had a piece of land and it was not developed, but now it is developed, it is operating now as a hotel.
Yes, yes.
So you use that as the basis of your loss. Use the profits that hotel is making as your losses, because someone is profiting illegally from their very conduct, and the law of the United States does not reward criminal actions.
Right. So the Republic of Cyprus, which is the sovereign power and has the rights to all the land in Cyprus, we have our land registry. And that land registry has all the title deed holders' details. Now we have the Movable Property Commission, the IPC. Everybody's talking about the IPC. And recently we've just heard that they've extended the IPC for another 2 years. There's been a lot of debate, and our government's view is that they do not recommend people to go to the IPC. What is your view as far as the IPC is concerned?
Well, the IPC poses the biggest danger to the Republic of Cyprus and to the citizens of the Republic of Cyprus, in that, for the first time, you have the illegal regime being recognized as part of Turkey. In other words, you've taken something that's illegal and now empowered it. You've provided the nexus, the necessary sovereignty it requires, and uses Turkey's sovereignty to acquire lands, to operate its courts,
right,
which usurps the sovereignty of the Republic of Cyprus. And that IPC, through the Dimopoulos case, is clear that Turkey is acquiring property, these deeds, the titles to land, and it is slowly acquiring and amassing territory, which will at some point be argued that they have enough land to exercise their sovereignty directly. But through the IPC, Turkey is now exercising its sovereign rights on the lands of the Republic of Cyprus without there being any legislation outlawing it, or two, any challenges by the Republic of Cyprus for the usurpation, the deprivation of their constitutional powers as a sovereign on their lands. The Republic of Cyprus should be challenging these rulings that now usurp their sovereignty, their rights, and do so in a constitutional fashion.
If we look back over a year ago, the European Court of Human Rights decided to pass on to the IPC this role of Greek Cypriots or any individual who had title deeds within the occupied territory to actually use the courts as a method of remedy for them. Now, the ECHR, when anyone used to go to the ECHR, the European Court of Human Rights, they used to go for the specific reason of challenging the ECHR and requesting remedy for compensation and loss of use of their land, not for the sale of their title. Why has the ECHR then passed on to the IPC the opportunity for them to actually offer to buy the title, rather than just purely just sticking to what the ECHR was doing, looking at each individual case for compensation and loss of use?
Clearly, Theo, you're raising a very valid point. The ECHR, these judges in the Dimopoulos case, have exceeded their scope of authority. They are now acting ultra vires, in my view, and unconstitutionally so. They're a public body. The ECHR is a public body that must adhere to the convention that applies to all Europeans. And their conduct discriminates against Greek Cypriots.
Yes.
That allows, I believe, the foundation to challenge the ECHR's ruling in a constitutional court for what they've done. Now, to address the other issue you've raised, the ECHR, by expanding this role, allows Turkey a sovereign power to acquire property in the Republic of Cyprus. You are now pitting one sovereign and taking away power from the other. This is usurpation. This is an issue that is left to the executive branches of governments. But for whatever reason, the ECHR has chosen this political route and clearly has made a political decision. But despite its decision in illegality, there are those who are submitting to it. And by those who are submitting to it are empowering Turkey every time these deeds are sold.
Yes.
And emboldening Turkey and creating the contacts, the nexus, the permanency of Turkey and the Republic of Cyprus through its quote-unquote subordinate authorities, the TRNC, through the use of their court system, as if the Republic of Cyprus does not have a court system.
Right.
The Apostolidis case made that clear.
Yeah.
It said all civil and commercial matters, that includes judicial and also the sale of deeds, both civil and commercial matters, are exclusively within the power of the Republic of Cyprus.
Courts, yes.
And now we see that's taken away.
Well, that's quite difficult to understand, because it seems as if this is a political decision and there are political consequences as a result of allowing the IPC to purchase, and Turkey to purchase title. It seems that this is part of the pressure of the negotiations and adding to it, because the more properties which Turkey buys, that means the more land, in inverted commas, that they own. But how can they own the land when the only legal process of buying or selling land is through the Republic of Cyprus and the land registry of the Republic of Cyprus? So I'm confused. I mean, where's the rule of law come into this? And how can they have ownership of that land?
Yeah. Well, they disregarded the rule of law. And what's very telling is the ECHR's ruling that made it voluntary. This is key. They made it voluntary for Greek Cypriots to give up their rights so they would not be held accountable for their conduct. So as Turkey acquires their rights and property by the individuals, there will be a point in time where the finger will be pointed at the very refugees and be told, you did this voluntarily. We are now left with no decision other than the fact that we must somehow come to a political solution by empowering Turkey and using their court system.
Right.
You have now, the IPC has, by definition, the use of the TRNC court system as its subordinate authority, just like the United States has Puerto Rico. The United States has courts in Puerto Rico. Now, you could go to Puerto Rico and use a U.S. court system. It is considered the U.S. court system, and you could do that in Puerto Rico. That also provides the sovereign power in Puerto Rico. It is no different than what is occurring now, and done so in a very, very clandestine fashion by the ECHR, by providing it, and no one is speaking out as much.
Right. Right, right. Now, I think the other thing that I'm aware of, I've been made aware of, is that our government, the Republic of Cyprus, has a system whereby a refugee can actually borrow money against their land in the occupied territory. And the information that I have is that you can borrow a maximum of 50,000 euros against your land, or 80% of the value of the land, whichever is the highest or the lowest. Then why don't the refugees use that avenue rather than, and why doesn't our government promote that? Because we don't hear anything about this.
Yeah.
And secondly, I'll add another point to that. Then, rather than the IPC in Turkey buying the title deeds of the refugees, why doesn't our government, the Republic of Cyprus, say, right, do you want to sell your title? Sell it to the Republic of Cyprus, which is the sovereign nation. And therefore, we will find the funds to do so. Can you explain this? Because I haven't heard this occurring.
You're right. Many people don't know. I've found out about this recently after clients wanted to know, why isn't the government doing much at all? We found out about the loan program. We also found out that it's limited in the amount, and also there's these long delays.
Right.
And not many people know about it. And if there's long delays, like in any right, if you delay someone's rights, they might as well be denied. And there might be an intent behind that. By delaying it, you're actually causing less participation in this loan program.
Right.
But to bring up your more important point is, while the Republic of Cyprus may speak out, and that's all they do, speak out against the IPC, while they say that it's dangerous, they won't take the common sense approach to actually acquire those lands that are being sold right to Turkey. Acquire those lands. That makes common sense, that protects the Republic of Cyprus, that could be held for their betterment in a negotiation if they choose a political solution.
Can I just interrupt there? Because I think one of the fundamental points that has come out of the IPC's process of compensation for whatever, maybe for title and whatever, is that they only pay 10% of the market value. Well, I mean, that is ridiculous. I mean, why would I go and sell my land to an aggressor for 10% of the value when I could go to my government and borrow that money and probably get more? Or tell my government, I prefer to sell it to you or hold it in trust for me and give me £50,000 for it, because one day we're going to get our land back. Right. And it's better my government hold my land in trust for me rather than I sell it to an aggressor who's going to use it against me in negotiations.
That's right. If there's a loan process already in place, it means that banks already have valued the property.
Yes.
Let's not kid ourselves.
Yes.
The properties in the occupied areas have been evaluated, they've been appraised, and there's been values given to them.
Yes.
There are loans given, and you bring up a valid point. Why isn't there a trust? Why isn't there some sort of mechanism to acquire those lands for the protection not only of that individual refugee, but of all Cypriots?
Correct.
And allow the Republic of Cyprus to exercise its exclusive sovereignty,
Yes.
but chooses to ignore that for whatever reason. Is it negligence? Is it intent? I would hate to think the latter, but we do have to question it and raise the question, why? Why aren't some of these issues resolved in a common sense approach?
Well, that's those words, common sense, are ones which have not prevailed as far as the Cyprus issue is concerned. Let me take a scenario. The ECHR has thrown out its right to deal with cases because there's too many of them and it's blocking the system to the IPC. Can't the judge in America do the same and say, hey guys, I'm not going to deal with this. It's your problem. I'm throwing it to the IPC. Go to the IPC. Is the legal system in America, does it differ in such a way that the judge will be forced to make a decision?
Well, eventually, if the case progresses, I'm sure there's no doubt that the illegal entity will raise those questions, that there's a remedy that should be used. But don't forget, the ECHR's intent was to provide a narrow remedy, and doesn't include trespass and just enrichment. The laws in the United States, just like the ECJ,
Yes.
looks at a much broader umbrella of remedies and laws that
Yes.
apply. And so all that is taken into consideration. But also the constitutional underpinnings, when the court analyzes all this, it also takes a look at the constitutional protections one is provided. And there is no doubt that Greek Cypriots are discriminated against in the IPC procedures, where Greek Cypriot attorneys can't even practice.
Correct, yes. Mm-hmm.
To my knowledge, there is no investigation to find out if there are occupiers and what they do. There's no discovery process, which is in the United States. It doesn't allow fact-finding to
Right.
determine.
Right. Mm-hmm.
A great example is that in the Dimopoulos case, the ruling came back and said, in addition to the IPC being validated, said that rights, your right, if you're beyond a certain age, I believe it was 13 or younger, your rights to return to your family's home may be less of an expectation, and rights to an occupier without ever determining who that occupier is, when that occupier actually took possession of that property. In the Dimopoulos case, wouldn't it matter if someone just moved into the property a day before, and after waiting 37 years, that individual's right to that property is somehow more than yours? And in that same line, isn't it important to know that the imported settlers, many whom are occupying these properties, have been taken away from their lands and imported into the Republic of Cyprus, creating another human rights issue, another violation of law, to cleanse the island of its Hellenic identity, to continue and to promote division, segregation, which the United States knows full well does not work. South Africa learned that lesson the hard way. It does not work unless you provide the rule of law, which you pointed out. And that's all that Greek Cypriots ask for. That's what my clients ask for, and I believe that's what you stand for as well, and the lobby does.
I totally agree. And 2 weeks ago, at the fourth summit that were held in Long Island in New York, the Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, he said that there was much less progress than he expected in 4 very important areas. One was the area of governance, citizenship, property, and territory. Now, 37 years have passed, and 4 fundamental parts of a solution have not been dealt with. And the Secretary General said, well, in 2 months' time, we're going to have another meeting in January, and I want to see progress. Now, we're just taking property as one of the main issues, and we're discussing it just now. And we don't seem to be coming to any form of a solution for this. And we're trying to fight for our rights as Greek Cypriots, as refugees, or as refugees. It could be a Greek Cypriot, it could be a Turk, it could be anyone. Anyone's rights within the occupied territory. Can you just sum up for us, in a minute or so, your thoughts about how important the rule of law is as far as the human rights of individuals are concerned within their property or the return to the land and so forth?
The rule of law is the basis of equality. If you are not deemed equal in the eyes of the law, which the ECHR has said to Greek Cypriots, I believe, and my clients believe, that you must disregard the ECHR, because what the ECHR is saying, you deserve less. Despite the atrocities that have occurred, you actually are less. You deserve less. And they're disregarding the law because of politics. And the only way you can violate the rule of law is to bring into the equation a political solution, politics.
Right.
And to go further, like I said before, the rule of law, if not respected, these same issues will be brought up in a different manner. The segregation that occurred in the United States in the South, was not based on the rule of law. The rule of law, if not respected, will come back in a different fashion and present itself, and it could be a lot worse than what happened in 1974. These are the things that we all must consider when looking at a solution if the rule of law is not respected. You see that in North Africa, regardless of what you feel, the Arab Spring, being told that equality was the reason for these uprisings. Well, if those individuals are entitled to the rule of law, why not Greek Cypriots? We saw Turkey be the spokesman for human rights, arguing even into New York why Palestinians deserve equality, why the neighbors in North Africa deserve equality, and we're at the forefront of their fight. But when it comes to Greek Cypriots, they're considered less. And that is something we cannot stand for. Everyone should be equal. Everyone should be equal before the law.
Well, Mr. Tsimpedes, thank you very, very much for coming to London again. Thank you for informing our viewers tonight. And we look forward to you coming back next March, April with positive news that we have won the judgment. And I'm sure if the judges in the United States of America do follow the rule of law, that's going to be the outcome. Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you next year with, as I said, positive news.
Look forward to it. Thank you very much, Theo. Always thank you for your kindness.
Thank you. And to the viewers tonight, θα ήθελα να ευχαριστήσω τον κύριο Tsimpedes. Ελπίζουμε τον επόμενο Μάρτιο-Απρίλιο να επιστρέψει εδώ στο Λονδίνο με θετική απάντηση από το δικαστήριο στην Αμερική πώς έχουμε κερδίσει τη δίκη. Σε περιμένω, κύριε Tsimpedes, του χρόνου και καλό ταξίδι πίσω στην Αμερική.
Ευχαριστώ, Theo.
Καλή νύχτα.
Καλή νύχτα.